If you want your learners to prepare an essay on a specific topic, or if you want to allow them to upload images or other files, you can use the assignment type called Open Response Assessment. This assignment type has its own independent submission deadlines and due date settings. Even if you configure a grace period in the grading section, or set due dates at the subsection level, these settings will not affect the submission deadlines of an open response assessment, also known as ORA. To add an open response assessment, I will create a new unit. I click Add New Component and select Open Response Assessment. Now we can see a default example of this assignment type. To modify the default content, I click the Edit button. In the prompt section, I define the question that the learner needs to answer. Here you can clearly describe what you expect from the learner, and you can also provide an example response if needed. You can add multiple questions by clicking Add Prompt, but in this example I will keep only one prompt. Next, we move to the rubric section. This is where we define the grading criteria for the person who will review the learner's work. I will remove the default rubric and create my own by clicking Add Criterion. In the criterion name field, I enter a short name for the criterion, for example, idea. In criterion prompt, I provide a detailed description of what this criterion evaluates. Each criterion can include multiple options. Options describe how well a learner's response meets the criterion. For this example, I will add 3 options. In option name, I enter a short and clear label for the option. In option explanation, I describe what defines this level of performance and what is expected from the learner. In option points, I assign the number of points awarded for selecting this option. Once the criterion and options are configured, we can adjust feedback for this criterion. This setting defines whether the reviewer is required to provide feedback for this criterion. I will leave it set to optional. In default feedback text, you can customize the default feedback message if needed. Next, we move to the Schedule section. In Response Start Date, I select the date when learners can begin submitting their responses. In Response Due Date, I set the final deadline for submissions. In the Assessment Steps section, we can configure how the assignment will be graded. For example, we could add self-assessment or peer assessment to extend the evaluation process. In this example, I will keep only staff assessment, which means that learner submissions will be reviewed by the instructor. In the Settings section, I can customize how the assignment is displayed. In Display Name, I update the name of the task as it will appear to learners. In Text Response, I choose whether a text response is required. In this case, I will leave it set to optional. Since I want learners to upload a file in File Uploads Response, I select Required. If you want to allow learners to upload multiple files, set Allow Multiple Files to True. In File Upload Types, you can define which file types are accepted. You may select custom file types and then specify the allowed formats in File Types field. LaTeX is a document preparation system, and you can decide whether to allow submissions in this format. In Top Responses, you can specify how many top responses will be displayed. If you do not want to use this feature, you can set the value to 0. In Show Rubric during response, you can allow learners to see the rubric while submitting their work. I will set this to false, so learners do not see the rubric during submission. In Allow Learner Resubmissions, you can set the value to true if you want learners to be able to resubmit their work. Once all settings are configured, I click Save. To make the assignment available to learners, I click Publish. Now the assignment is live. We can switch to the Learner view to submit a response, and then return to the Instructor view to review and grade the submission.